Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Everline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care. Your favorite host of Care Sandwich, the only host of Care Sandwich so far, coming to you live. We're so excited that our podcast coach actually has been working with us to get us to go live. And this is actually the first time that we're doing it. And I'm going to bring on a very special guest for this first live season or live episode of Care Sandwich. But first, check out this video. All right, so I think that was it for the video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have the distinct honor of welcoming Tay Cardenas Witt from Tay Cardenas Witt Law to the podcast. And Tay, tell my audience all about you, all about yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tay Cardenas Wittenstein. I'm known locally here in Austin, Texas as Abogada Tayrin. I am a criminal defense attorney here in Austin and Central Texas, and I am a former prosecutor of 12 years turned criminal defense attorney, and I opened my own firm specifically to help the Hispanic immigrant population when they get arrested here in Central Texas.
Well, Tay, I'm going to start off with a very, very fun and simple question that I did not prep you for. But if you watch any of my other episodes, you'll know what the question is. What is your favorite sandwich? Because it's called the Care Sandwich Podcast.
My favorite sandwich is a French dip because I love things that like I can dip into things. Like I love sauces and things like that. And so I will say that anytime my favorite, anytime you want to get me a sandwich, a French dip is the way to go.
I love it. It's like a non-spicy torta ahogada.
Exactly. I don't know. This is my thing. I like the whole dipping. I like the whole like ritual of the dipping, and that's part of it.
All right. Well, back to serious business. Tay, during the podcast, I like to have conversations about who you are, what you do, which you already gave us a brief overview. And I want you to talk to us about why you started your law firms and invite us into your journey of starting a law firm. What inspired you, and what is it that you do that's special?
Yes. So basically, starting from, the very beginning of my journey, I went to UT Law School, University of Texas Law School. And the only reason I went to law school was to practice criminal law. I just, it was it. I wasn't interested in any other kind of law. I was always into the true crime things. And I always just, I had a vision of myself, doing this kind of work since I was a little girl. And so I went to law school. My goal was to be a defense attorney the whole time. After law school, though, I was offered my first job as a prosecutor. So I got to taste the other side for a little while. And I thought, okay, this will be good for a little while. I'll learn the other side and then I'll go to my defense work. But that lasted 12 years, 3 years in Laredo on the border of Texas and Mexico. And then 10 years in Austin, the capital of Texas, where I loved being a prosecutor because I got to try a lot of cases. I have, over 50 trials under my belt, first chair, where, I love that. I was a theater major in college. And so the courtroom is my stage now. And so I basically liked working for the government. It was a very comfortable job. It was 9 to 5. I had benefits. I had, all sorts of administrative staff and help and, paid time off. And it was very comfortable. It was very difficult, the work itself, but the job was very comfortable. All I had to do was show up and practice law. But my dream had always been to be a defense attorney. And, I had, as a prosecutor, I had court every single morning, Monday through Friday. And in that court, I would consistently see people that only spoke Spanish, sign paperwork with their English speaking attorneys. They didn't know what they were signing. And I just felt like their defense attorneys could work a lot harder for them, even if they didn't speak the language. But I just felt like they were being forgotten. And so that, after, a while of being a prosecutor, my family actually was the one that kind of had an intervention with me and said, okay, remember you always wanted to be a defense attorney? This is the time. You've been there 12 years. What are you going to do? I was like, do I want to, the only way to go up where I was to be administrative. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be in court. I like to be in court. So they finally were like, do it. This is the time. And so I just started thinking about, the Hispanic community here in Central Texas and how it really needed someone who not only spoke Spanish, not only, had the culture, because I'm also an immigrant myself, but also just cared a lot about them, cared about the consequences of all the actions. Because as an immigrant, the consequences of criminal being arrested are far worse than for a U.S. citizen, far worse. Even for a ticket, it can be far worse. So I thought, I care. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at fighting, and I care. And I can, I can relate to this community. And so I decided very boldly to quit my 9-to-5, very comfortable, cushioned work life as a prosecutor working for the government, and just start over. And I opened my own firm, Cárdenas Witt Law, here in Austin, Texas, in January of 2023. It was just me. That was when it all started, and it's gotten pretty far since then.
And I've seen you in court. I've had the privilege. So when I ask you this question, it's not about that, because I know that's the easy part. But what do you do differently than other law firms, or how are you set up differently than other law firms to do what you do for the Hispanic community?
Okay, well, first of all, my law firm, I started with just me. At this point, we have an entire team. So my law firm it's a team. When you hire me, you hire the whole team. You hire another attorney that works with my office named Jessica Leak. You hire our paralegal named Katy Lomas. You hire all of our legal assistants, and just basically the entire team at Cárdenas Witt Law, which is about 7 of us that are full-time. We also work with investigators, private investigators, on our really heavy cases, that's also part of our team, which they basically finish the work that the police didn't do, in our opinion. And so what we do differently is that we want to make sure that the client is heard, that the client is respected, that, and the main thing that when somebody comes into my office is I want to protect their American dream. Most of our clients are non-citizens. They can be anything from undocumented completely to a green card holder, which can easily be lost. And so even though we live in Texas, for some crazy reason, there just wasn't enough good defense for people like this, for people that are not citizens. And so that's what we do. We focus on that population. We fight. And when somebody comes in to my office, they're going to get constant communication. You're going to get an intro meeting immediately with my paralegal. You're going to know exactly what's going on with your case at all times. You're going to understand the criminal justice system in general. I mean, for Americans, it's hard enough to understand, but if you're from a different country and you're here, you get arrested, and we're just going to explain everything, no matter how, if you want us to go into more detail, we'll go into more detail. I want you to know what's going on, because this is really important. And we're going to have a lot of hands-on help with you. If you are scared to go to court by yourself, that's fine. We'll meet you outside. We'll walk in with you. We're not going to leave you alone. My main thing is I want the families that hire us, because it is a family. It's never just the one person. It's the whole family.
That's true.
Yeah, it really is. The families that hire us, we want them to feel like they can give us their problem. Give us the problem, give us the case, and you guys focus on, you know, keeping your family together, your mental health, you know, all of that. Focus on that. Give us the hard part, give us the case, and that they can finally relax and just kind of have that sense of just peace for a little bit, for the not for a little bit, for the whole time their case is pending,
as much as possible, right? Because
as much as possible.
Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of times people are like, am I doing enough? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? You know, what do I, you know? And with us, you're going to be sure that you're doing everything you can. Like we'll call you when we need some input from you, when we need a letter, when we need this or that. But like we got this. You hired, you know, the best of the best, and we're here to help you. And my goal from the very beginning of getting a case, whether it's immigrant or not, because we do take American citizen cases too, but my goal is basically to get the best outcome possible. And obviously in a criminal case, that's to get a dismissal. I want the case dismissed. I don't care, you know, to me, whether or not you committed the crime is not relevant. It's whether or not the state can prove it, you know. And being a prosecutor for so long, I know how they think. I know how far I can push it. I know how far I can bluff. And I know the other side, so that, you know, if it does come to the point where we have to request a jury trial, I'm ready to go. So from the very beginning, I start preparing for trial on every single case, because my goal is always a dismissal. And if we don't get a dismissal, we're going to try it.
Wow. And Ty, you are just amazing. And I hear you, like what you do would work with any sort of person, but you are definitely uniquely qualified to help this, you know, segment of the population that was underserved. Talk to us about how you have created an environment for the community, for the Hispanic community, the immigrant community, to feel comfortable with you and with your team.
Well, all of my team is Spanish speaking. That is extremely important to us. The only person that does not speak fluent Spanish is the other attorney. And the only reason I hired her was because she's great. She's a really good attorney. She really cares about the cause, about the immigrant cause. And she knows what she's doing, and she's powerful. And I thought it was more important to hire someone like that than it was to hire someone that just spoke Spanish. So she's learning. But everybody else is a fluent Spanish speaker. Everybody else is an immigrant. The only person born in the United States is this other attorney. Everybody else was born outside of the United States. And so we've all gone through that immigration process, including myself. I was born in Mexico City, so I've gone through the immigration process. I know what it is to, you know, not feel like you 100% belong somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And another crazy thing about myself is that when I was in college, you know, 20 years ago, I got arrested myself in my dorm room for smoking pot with some other friends. And at that point, I was a green card holder. I was a permanent resident. And at that point, I didn't realize what a big deal it was to get arrested and not be a U.S. citizen. You know, it was kind of smooth sailing throughout the court process. I got my case dismissed, and you know, I had to take some classes and do some things, but pretty much it all worked out. It wasn't until about 5 or 6 years later, when I was applying to get my U.S. citizenship, that I realized, oh my God, I could literally be deported for this. You know, now that they're going to know that I got arrested. And even though there was a dismissal on my case, there was certain admissions that I made in court, admitting that I had possession of this. And just with that, even with the dismissal, just with admitting the fault, I was very likely going to be deported. So I had to hire my own immigration attorney. I had to hire a new criminal defense attorney. We had to go back years and reopen the criminal case, you know, relitigate it, redo everything, and finally close it out without any admissions. And so finally I was able to apply for my U.S. citizenship, and it wasn't easy at all. You know, I was terrified.
You did it. You felt the
I did it. I did it. That's one thing about me. If I want to do something, I'm gonna get it done. You know, and so I was gonna open that case and I was gonna make it happen, because I wasn't about to lose my citizenship for that one, you know, mistake I made one night in college. And but yeah, so it was a year from like applying for the citizenship all the way to when I actually got it. This was back in 2012, and it was, one of the worst years of my life. I was so nervous. I was just already thinking, what am I going to do when I leave here? I already went to law school. Like, I did all this work to be an upstanding citizen in the US, and I'm just going to be kicked out to a country that I don't even know, because I was raised in the United States since I was 2 years old. And so it was a very, very difficult time. And so I understand that that's what many people are going through right now in general, even without criminal cases, just because of the fear of ICE. And so I know what it is to be terrified, to be of being ripped out of the life that you've built for yourself, and to be taken to a place that you don't know. And so I use that every day. And I was already a prosecutor when that was going on. I was a prosecutor. I worked for the government, and I was fighting to stay in the United States. Finally, thank God, I was granted my citizenship in 2012. And ever since then, I have had a very extreme appreciation for not only my citizenship status, but also for my law license. I was able to continue with the life that I built for myself. And I'm just very careful with that. And I fight really hard for my clients, because I know what it is like to be on the other side. And as a person with anxiety myself, I can't imagine, going through something, especially if you're charged with something really serious, like a felony, and you're about to lose, everything. You have kids here, you have your whole life here. And so that's my story about why I care so much about the immigrant population, because I'm one of them. I'm one of y'all, and so I was there. I beat it, and I'm going to help you beat it too. And my staff is very much on the same page as well.
I hope you're enjoying the conversation and your sandwich as much as we are. I want to take a moment to share a few words about our sponsor, Marketing Boss. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. We've got over a decade of experience and a proven track record, and we specialize in growing law firms like yours with data-driven marketing leadership. So if you own a law firm and you're ready to get a predictable, steady flow of cases from your marketing, let's connect at marketing-boss.com.
And I want to point out something that you mentioned, that I think is very unique, or you touched on it, that's very unique with the Hispanic community. I think many times they don't realize the seriousness of the charges and how it can affect them differently depending on their immigration status.
Yeah.
I think that there's also this underlying theme, and I only know this because I've done so much research into keywords and how people search for lawyers online, where there's an assumption and a belief that if you're charged, that there's nothing you can do. Like, you're just charged, and you're like a parking ticket, right? You get a parking ticket, you just have to go pay it. And many times I think the community doesn't understand that, one, you're not guilty until it's proven, right? And two,
unless it's proven.
Thank you, nice catch.
Not until, unless.
Yeah. And the consequences, really can be managed, right? If you make a mistake, and I've learned this working with attorneys like yourself, where, if somebody makes a mistake, hey, no judgment, but it doesn't mean you have to submit yourself to the full punishment for whatever your error was. A lot of room for negotiation, I'm going to call it.
Absolutely. Guilty or not,
yeah.
It doesn't matter if you did what you're accused of. I don't care how horrible it is. You deserve a defense. You're entitled to a defense, based on the Constitution of the United States, whether you were born here or not, whether you're here legally or not. If you are accused of a crime that was supposedly committed in the United States, in Texas, you are entitled to a defense. And that's what I'm here to give you. And so, like Margarita said, negotiation goes a long way. Just because you are charged with a felony doesn't mean you're going to end up with a felony. And so basically, I always say there's two kinds of criminal cases. There's the kind where, innocent or not, doesn't matter if you did it or not, but there's not much evidence against you. And, so in those cases, we're going for a straight dismissal. We are demanding a dismissal. If we don't get that dismissal, we're going to set it for jury trial, and we're going to try it, and we're going to, try to win that case, or at least pressure the prosecutor so much that at the last minute they give up and they give in, and so that's the one where we're just going to go forward. Then there's other ones, whether guilty or not, there's a lot of evidence against you. There's a lot of evidence against you. There's eyewitness, there's, victim testimony, if it's family violence, something like that. There's video, maybe a confession. So there's like,
right, you have to manage.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
and so we're not necessarily going for a straight dismissal. Of course, that's always my number one goal. I'm never going to lose sight of that, no matter what.
You're going to be realistic,
but I'm going to be realistic, and I'm going to get you the best deal that I can. And so I don't care if you said you did it. I'm still going to fight like if you didn't say anything at all. I want to get you the best deal possible. And then once I get that best deal possible, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, all right, I spoke to the prosecutor after everything we did, after all the investigating we did. This is the best deal that I can get you. You were charged with a felony. They're allowing you to plead to a misdemeanor, time served. This is what it means for your immigration consequences. And then that person decides, I want to take that deal or I want to take it to trial. They're the boss. They tell me what to do. If I say, I don't think we should take it to trial, I don't think we're going to win, but they're like, let's go. I'm going to put my all into it, and I'm going to take it to trial, and I'm going to have that, I'm going to want to win, and I'm going to try to win. But sometimes in my line of work, a win isn't necessarily always a dismissal. It's, getting rid of the big charges for the little charges, so there's a lot of different ways to win in my case. And even with immigration, a lot of times if I'm able to negotiate to where, okay, he won't plead guilty to this, but he'll plead guilty to that, that'll save his immigration status. And so that's, at the end of the day, my most important thing is keeping their status, their immigration status.
Yeah, there's a whole term, crimmigration, which I've gotten familiar with, where it's like that hybrid almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't practice immigration law. I work very closely with other attorneys that do here in Austin, that practice specifically deportation defense, because it's the most difficult kind of immigration. To basically defend, you're not just asking to be let in, you're defending yourself not to be kicked out. And so the reason I don't do immigration is because I don't like it. I couldn't do it after what I went through. It's a whole monster. I just don't want to deal with it. So what I do is I put all my eggs in the criminal defense. I'm a criminal attorney. That's what I do. That's what I'm very good at. It's what I've been doing for the past 15 years. And so I'm going to make that criminal case the best it can be, so that I can hand it off to an immigration attorney that I trust, that can, take it the rest of the way. I'm going to clean up the mess as much as I can on the criminal side, and then hand it over to someone else to do their part.
I love that. And I feel a lot of emotion behind what you do, because I think there might be people listening, and this happens when people are like, oh, you help, criminal attorneys, right? And I bet you get it even directly, like, oh, you're a criminal attorney. You're just helping people get away with stuff. And I want to talk about that, briefly, because we could talk about it for a really long time. I believe, and this is my personal belief based on how I grew up as a Hispanic, in a Hispanic community, very low income, that the criminal justice system isn't always the best solution, even when somebody does something that maybe is not ideal or participates in certain type of behavior. And I think that it's perfectly fine to let it all just kind of work out and at least try, right? So I've, had conversations with people like, oh, so-and-so in my family did so-and-so, like, I don't want to help them, or I don't want to spend the money on an attorney because blah, 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 right? And I know we can talk about the criminal justice system for days, but just very briefly, touch on, what is your heart toward the people that are accused of a crime? Maybe they did make a mistake, maybe they didn't. How do you reconcile your desire to do what's best for society and also help people that maybe have made a mistake? Like, how do you reconcile those two? Because I know you personally, and I know you're just an amazing person who loves people and wants the best for everyone. So, I think that there's this stigma with, criminal attorneys, right? And I have many criminal attorney clients that, you know, like people are judgy. And I'm like, no, that's not how it is. So,
you know, one of the hardest things was going to career day at my daughter's school in kindergarten and having to explain what I do. And so that was kind of like the biggest challenge. How do I explain, you know, when I was a prosecutor, I put the bad guys in jail, you know, I'm the hero, but how do I explain it on the other side? But look, at the end of the day, there are many professions in the world that only a certain amount of people, certain kind of person can do. You know, I could never be, you know, pediatric oncologist. I just couldn't do that. I could never be, you know, there's certain things that just, no, it just, I couldn't do that. I can be a criminal defense attorney. I can do this. I can take on that responsibility. I'm tough. You know, yeah, so I'm defending someone who's accused of a crime. Many of them committed the crime. Like I said, constitutionally, you have that right.
exactly.
Okay, and I'm a very firm believer as a naturalized U.S. citizen in this Constitution, because it doesn't matter how guilty you are, you have a defense. And I've been there, you know, in a small, tiny sense. Of course, possession of marijuana doesn't compare to, like, you know, hurting someone, but I've been there and I know what it is to feel like the underdog. I know what it is to feel like you have the entire literal state of Texas against you. And the immigration side, the entire United States against you. I know what it is like. And, you know, a lot of times I don't like what my clients are accused of. Many of them did do the crime, especially when it comes, I do child abuse cases, you know, and I don't have to like the client. I don't have to like him. I don't have to accept what he did at all. It's just that he deserves a defense. And a lot of times I'm not getting them off. A lot of times I'm just getting them a little bit of a better deal. Just because if you were in that situation, you would want that too. You know, a lot of people don't realize how easy it is to fall into to being accused of a crime, especially of something like a sexual crime, because there doesn't need to be a lot of evidence, you know? And so until you're in that situation, you don't realize how important it is to have someone, to have a team that's on your side, no matter what you did. I don't care. It's like your mama, you know, your mama's always gonna be on your side, no matter what you did. That's us. You know, we're going to be on your side no matter what you did. We're not going to be happy with you, you know, but we're going to be there and we're going to defend you and we're going to make sure that your rights are protected and that you get the best defense that you can. Because a lot of times people commit crimes and it's not because they're just bad people. You know, it might be their life circumstances growing up. It might be all they know. It might be they're desperate. It might be, you know, they're desperate for money. It might be mental health. A lot of it's mental health or past trauma, you know, and so that's my job, is to basically speak for that person and say, hey, you know, sure, maybe he did this, but look at how he grew up. Look at how abused he's been. Look at the trauma. Look at all this. It doesn't excuse it, but it does mitigate it to where I can say, like, maybe he doesn't deserve to go to prison for, you know, the rest of his life. Maybe 10 years would be sufficient, you know? So I'm not trying to get them like necessarily let them get away with things.
It's just,
I'm just trying to do what the Constitution says that everybody is entitled to. So that's basically it. It is a difficult question. I get asked it a lot of times. You know, but I, you know, I always go back to that person. Yeah, I just always go back to myself, you know, like I did it. I was definitely, you know, I wasn't, you know, just falsely accused, all that, you know, and so I needed a defense and I had someone that was there for me and I had someone that, and now I'm so glad that, you know, I had that, because had I not had that, I don't know where I would be right now. Even though I was an attorney myself, I couldn't, it's like having a doctor and like being a doctor and operating on yourself. You need someone else to do it. And so,
and I will share this, you know, from my personal experience. You know, I've had loved ones, you know, that have been incarcerated, and I've had like part of my family be like, oh, well, too bad. And then the other part of my family be like, you know what, let's just spend whatever we need to on a good lawyer to help our family member. And I feel like it was a positive turning point for, you know, family members. So like, I think it's important to consider, you know, if you're considering hiring a criminal attorney for a loved one, just consider like what you've said over and over, like everybody has rights under the Constitution. So
everybody has rights and everybody has a reason, you know, like every single person, no matter how horrible what they're accused of doing, there's something in there that makes them human. You know, and there's something in there that I want to find, you know, I want to find the good. I want to find the good in this person, in this person, in this life. Sometimes the good is the fact that they have 3 kids that are completely innocent, and that are going to be, their lives are going to be ruined, if their dad goes to prison or something like that. And so
I have a really close friend who speaks out a lot about incarceration with that exact story. His father was incarcerated and he was without a father because his father was in jail, and it really caused a lot of pain. So, oh my gosh, we could talk for days.
But yeah, so that's it. It is a tough job, but someone's got to do it, right? Like that's
I think what you do is very honorable. You're a wonderful person, amazing attorney. What you're doing over there is, in Texas, I say over there because I'm in Atlanta, but what you're doing in Texas is amazing. And I think, if you have any contact information, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, esa es mi abogada, that's my attorney. Like, does she handle cases in my area? Like, remind us again, what area do you practice and how can people get a hold of you?
Yes. Okay. So I'm in Central Texas. My main jurisdictions that I practice in are Travis County, which is Austin and the surrounding areas, and Williamson County, which is just north of Austin. I do take cases in other smaller counties around here if they're big felonies. I'm not going to take a little case just because they're hard to deal with. I'm not going to lie. They're especially for the immigrants. They don't make it easy. And so we're going to expand eventually to do that. But right now we're Travis and Williamson. Primarily, if you've been arrested or if a police is looking for you, like a detective wants to talk to you because somebody accused you of something, that's when we get involved. Do not talk to the police until you talk to a lawyer. And so if you want to get a hold of me, we are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Most people get arrested in the middle of the night. So we're always there. And we're at 512-484-9389. We're also online on our socials, and we post lots of things there, lots of, informative things, but also just a day in the life. Because a life of a criminal defense attorney is pretty interesting. I forget how interesting it is to other people until I get asked questions. But on Facebook, we're at Abogada Tayrin. And it's ABOGADATAYRIN. And then on Instagram and TikTok, we are at Cárdenas Witt Law, just like the name of my firm. And we're open 24 hours a day. Like I said, our website is cardenaswittlaw.com. We're about to get a new one in the next few days. So, but yeah, we're available. Yeah, finally, we're here. The most important thing for me is for people to know that we exist, and, I just feel like a lot of people call me and they're like, I can't believe I hadn't found you sooner. How is this possible? And so please just spread the word, because, there's always going to be someone's tío or tía or primo or, husband or kid that's going to do something or going to get accused of something and is going to need someone that cares, that knows what they're doing, and that's going to fight really hard for them, no matter what they're accused of, no matter where they were born, no matter what their immigration status is or their criminal history is. Like, that's us. We're going to help you at Cárdenas Witt Law. We're 100% defense. That's all we do. Come to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And if you're in Austin, DM on any sort of social media, DM the firm, because they can send you a contact card that you can download on your phone just in case a loved one needs you.
Correct. And that contact card will have all your rights, even as a non-citizen, as an undocumented person in the United States, you have the same exact rights as a U.S. citizen when it comes to police contact or ICE contact for that matter. And so I want everybody to know what their rights are so that they can protect themselves before we get involved, so to minimize the problem. So please you have the right to remain silent. If some people think I'm going to try to explain because they're going to think I'm more guilty if I don't try to explain. They probably already think you're guilty. Okay. So don't give them more. Don't give them more. The more information you give them, even if it's explaining how innocent you are, you're just giving the prosecutor more ammunition. You're giving them more bullets to hurt you. So remain silent, call me, let me do the talking. And that way you can protect yourself.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for watching this episode. We went way longer.
We could probably go for like another hour.
Maybe 15 minutes, but we'll catch you on the next episode. This was our first live, guys. Yay. Thank you, Kai, for making it so special.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, The way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.